In another chapter of the Surviving Diddy series over here at the I Refuse podcast, another woman has filed a lawsuit against Diddy by the name of April Lampros. Will Diddy be April's fool? All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. I'm back again. I know it's been like almost 7 whole days since the last video on the YouTube channel. But trust and believe, when I'm not over here, I'm still keeping the podcast alive wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Overcast. You know, all the information will be in the video over here. I was waiting for the right thing to come back to y'all about, and I'm like, okay, we already talked about Cameron on CNN. We already broke that down. We've already talked about the Apple Music's 100 top albums. You know, that's going to be coming out on Monday on the other side of the pod. But there I was minding my African American business. On the timeline at the Bird app, there was a little caption that came down on the timeline about another accuser coming forward. And it's a little snowflake. You know, unemployed snowflake fish. I feel like she may be the one to really make some traction. This April Lampros girl, although her situation or, you know, the alleged association, everything I'm about to say when this episode is alleged, goes back to the early 90s. Almost, yeah, like the first 4 years that Bad Boy was a thing. Snowflake Fish makes a claim in her suit that she was a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology and claims that Diddy, aka Love, formerly known as Puffy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, you know, the Didster. At this point, he has a new nickname called Diddy Do It. Claims that he made promises at first to, I guess, break her into the industry, connect her with some folks that he was connected to, and started a on-again, off-again relationship with the Didster. That started, they first met up, like I said, back in the 90s. He started showering her with gifts and flowers. They met up in 1995 at a Soho bar where she claimed that he allegedly plied her with alcohol. Then brought her back to his room allegedly at the Manhattan Millennium Hotel where the first assault happened. You know, she got there, started to feel ill and feel that the walls were closing in on her. And around that same time, while she was conscious, she was not able to, I guess, facilitate him getting off of her. And she says allegedly that he forced himself on her and began raping her allegedly. She woke up the next day, nude, sore, confused, with her clothes like off of her body, and she then says that after some time went by, he tried to get her back by waving, connections and I know some folks that could help you and promises. And she said it was like love bomb, which was flowers and gifts and stuff like that. At some point after the first rape, she met up with him again. They somehow end up at a parking deck in Midtown. A Midtown parking deck. I wrote it down because I don't want to be wrong up on this thing. So a parking. So by that point, she was an intern at Arista Records. Met him near his apartment, claims he forced himself on her at the Midtown parking garage, allegedly forced her to her knees, unzipped his pants, and forced his penis into her mouth. It's pretty crazy. Pretty wild. Let's see. At that point, she says a garage attendant saw them, but Diddy was unfazed. After the alleged incident, April says she rejected his continued invitations and he grew angry, calling her incessantly and threatening to blacklist her in the industry. She claims he developed a mobster persona. April claims there was an incident in 1996 when he ordered her to his apartment, and when she got there, she was introduced to Kim Porter. She claims he forced ecstasy down her throat and then demanded she have sex with Kim while he masturbated. Eventually, she alleges he raped her again. April says she finally broke things off in 1998, but then had a run-in with Kim at a restaurant where April was working. According to the suit, Kim told the restaurant owner April had tried to poison her, and if he didn't fire her, Diddy would shut down his business. April says she was fired, and the docs filed. Here's the interesting thing. April Lampros, aka I affectionately will continue to call her Snowflake Fish, of all the lawyers in the world, she has retained the services of Tyrone Blackburn, Esquire. That's a name that has floated throughout the latter half of the series over here. Allegedly, Tyrone Blackburn is the same person that is facing Rule 11 violations, which we broke down in part 7. Because the last part 8, we talked about the video and how it gives credence to Cassie's claims. So part 7 was the Christian Combs lawsuit filed by the yacht stewardess, and Tyrone Blackburn is representing that lady as well, allegedly. Allegedly, he's also still representing Lil Rod Jones, the producer who filed earlier this year against Diddy after a year or so of services, producer, assistant services to Diddy and his Love album. It's looking like Tyrone Blackburn has created a United Nations of clients over there. He has a black dude, now a white lady, a German or Swedish yacht employee. I think he has 1 or 2 other clients too. And I had said earlier, a couple of videos ago in this series, there is this thing where, you have lawyers that have clients. They're part of a firm, and then the firm has clients and stuff. Then you have these lawyers that, back in the day they were called ambulance chasers. They'll take anybody. And for the most part, in Baltimore, it was, anytime you see a commercial with a 1-800 number talking about the law offices of such, law offices of that, it usually would lead you to a switchboard, and it's like, you got to go through so many hoops to get to this person. And that's if they take you. So it's like, are you more of for the commercial, or are you actually for clients? And then you have, those celebrity lawyers. Didn't know anything about them prior to the press conference. And after a while, they're more well known as a legal representation for a person behind microphones and at press conferences. Then what cases are they actually on? What cases have they actually won? You see them more on news outlets and at podiums and at, desks and tables and stuff, sitting next to their client, publicizing the allegations, right? With Tyrone Blackburn, in my opinion, from what I haven't seen, you see the pool of clients getting longer, the list of clients getting longer. And you haven't heard any traction since Lil Riders filed, except 2 of the people he filed against have been dropped from the list of, I guess, defendants. You haven't heard much about the stewardess, any traction with that. But you see the list of clients are getting longer, and more people that are coming forward are represented by this guy. And it makes you wonder, is this really going to go anywhere? Because for you to have these many clients and people are getting dropped from the suit that it's filed against, there isn't a court date. There isn't mention of a court, circuit court or a lower level court, civil court, actually stepping forward and saying, we're going to hear this case. And I've said earlier, there's a difference between criminal and civil, but I'm curious to know, what does it take to get to that point? Because right now it's becoming a bigger circus. And, Diddy isn't making it any better. That whack-ass apology video, which I was telling Abstract the other day, the one he posted on IG was probably take 20, 25, 30. No emotion, dry as hell, monotone, unconvincing. I was just like, you could have just kept this. But while her retaining the services, this April Campos lady, of Tyrone Blackburn may not be a good look, why I think this may actually be the turning point in all of this against Diddy is girlfriend kept the clothes. Now, I don't know which outfit, which particular clothes she kept from which incident. But if this is indeed true that she did that, very, very smart. Very, very smart of her to do that. That detail was further down in the story that I read. When I was reading the rest of it, I was like, okay, he gave you gifts and you said he gave you promises of getting into the industry. Somehow you magically became one of the interns at Arista Records. Um, he allegedly raped you the first time. At some point, you came back around. It allegedly happened again. And as time goes on throughout all this, in what you allege in the suit, this man is getting darker and darker, more aggressive, more forceful. Um, has added allegedly added drugs to the equation, and it's mirroring some of the same variables that Cassie had in her suit about, the force and the coercion. And in this particular case, it's like allegedly Diddy has a pattern. And it's not a secret that he's known to take care of women, whether they've been signed to his label, and then later not, then later let go. He has given them like six figures just because. Sherry Dennis has come forward and said that, Diddy gave me $500,000, and I was like, oh, that's nice. But we've also talked about how to outweigh the darkness or balance the darkness in this image, for years the public image has been, I'm a family man. I am a man of positivity. I motivate people. And he definitely has, the gift of gab, marketing, promoting, making you believe you can bungee jump or skydive out of a plane without second thought. But don't be one of the people that allows your intelligence to be insulted. When you actually think how, we're at this point right now, you've seen the CNN video, which Abstract believes was a product of the Department of Homeland Security raid. I am still of the belief that I have a theory that this current era in Cassie's life, or where she is since filing the suit, is what if she's using the settlement money to buy back what's been hidden or kept secret, because she outlined in the suit, in her papers, the incident that we saw in the video. She knew the exact amount it cost to keep it a secret with the hotel. And her lawyer is still has responded to the apology video. And I'm thinking, why is the lawyer still talking if you guys have already settled with Diddy? I'm no Inspector Gadget, but the way my petty is set up, I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. Like Cassie, and as it should, like she should. When we talk about tables will turn, they should definitely be turning. And they are. But it's just a matter of who is responsible for the drop. In this whole situation, in my eyes, Cassie is the innovator. She set it up. She kicked this thing off. And we have people coming out as far back as 1994. Now, Abstract and I are foaming at the mouth at 50 Cent doing a Netflix docuseries on Diddy. And I definitely feel like it'll be in the same vein as Unmasked Kevin Spacey, where it'll be people not part of any suit of any kind. It will be people closer, known to be closer to Diddy. Um, and it'll probably pull up, he'll probably have executives from around that time because from what I remember, Diddy allegedly has not only assaulted women, he's assaulted other men, other executives. Um, Very sensitive over, sensitivity of image and how he's depicted. A lot of y'all that have been listening to hip hop since the early 90s, especially Nas, know what I'm talking about. So we're looking forward to that. I don't know what day that's going to come out, but I feel like with April Campros filing a lawsuit and having to close, which is kind of wild. Um, you have closed from over 25 years ago. With this docu series that's coming out on Netflix, we'll never hear the end of the Surviving Diddy series, which is just one of many um, types of or linear content that we offer at the RFU's podcast. But it didn't stop in 1996. They were on and off for about 4 or 5 years. At some point, she left him in 1998, April did. He managed to allegedly still get his revenge by calling her boss and demanding she get fired at her job at a Soho bar. Um, when she called Combs to say she was out of work, she says he laughed. The fourth sexual assault allegedly occurred around the end of 2000. When April saw Combs at an event in Rockefeller Center, he approached her, telling the crew he was with to switch their cameras off and asked her to leave with him. She rejected him and left alone. Combs won't leave her alone, however, badgering her over the phone for days, begging to see her. She eventually gave in and allowed him to come over to her apartment when he began apologizing for his past behaviors and started telling her that he was a changed man. He then showered her with compliments, telling her how good she looked and kept reminiscing about their prior sex life. He then began dropping hints about them having sex. Lampros rejected him. Suddenly out of nowhere, Combs grabbed her and began kissing her and touching her against her will. The complaint alleges she eventually fought him off and ordered him to leave. Around the time of this final assault, according to the suit, Combs was in a very public relationship with Jennifer Lopez. The couple was split the next year, with Lopez citing his infidelity in a 2003 interview with Vibe. It's the first time I was with someone who wasn't faithful, she told the magazine. I was in this relationship with Combs where I was totally crying, crazy, and going nuts. It really took my whole life in a tailspin. Despite the passage of more than 2 decades since then, Lampros has not fully been able to escape Combs, according to her suit. Just last year, it states a gentleman approached her at a function to inform the man she was dating at the time that he should reconsider dating her because he personally saw a video of her and Sean Combs having sex. The video was allegedly filmed in the summer of 1997 without Lampros' consent. She did not know of his existence until 2023. It was under the Gender Motivated Violence Act that Combs' sixth alleged victim, a former model named Crystal McKinney, filed a lawsuit earlier this week, accusing him of forcing her to perform oral sex on him. The first sign of the mountain of legal troubles to come for Combs was on November 16, 2023, when Cassie sued him for raping and abusing her over the course of their nearly decade-long relationship. She settled privately with Combs the next day, but the floodgates have already been opened. Let's see, 3 more suits. Lil Rod claiming that, Diddy forced him to procure drugs and sex workers. In March, the authorities raided homes in California and Florida. Last week, the CNN footage came out. Of course, Diddy denies all accusations. So, it's wild, right? Because this What makes this, another thing that makes this special is that this wasn't filed under the Abuse Survivors Act, which expired initially in November of last year at the end of the month, but I think was extended to 2025. This was filed under the Gender Motivated Violence Act, which any person can file because under, after X amount of years because there is no statute of limitations associated with it. And I don't believe there's an expiration date on that. So I feel like I said, like April Campos will be the one to really, break through the ceiling and really get things going. I just don't know if the settlement will be big, and there probably won't be jail time. I can't stress this enough. The difference between civil and criminal is that with civil, it is being filed by somebody that feels like they've been victimized. The state the state or the federal government, if they feel like a crime has been committed during these victimizations, they would do their own investigation and file charges in a particular state if it's within their jurisdiction against him, which that's a separate thing. That's not in addition to the civil suit or the victimization. And the civil suits have little to no bearing on criminal cases. Can't stress that enough. So if you're still looking for him to do time, you're going to be waiting a long time. But don't give up, because I believe that raid that happened back in March, that's not the last you've heard of from the government. Like I said, they had to be investigating you for a while to do that, and as bold as they did. So time will tell, and when it does, so will we at the I Refuse podcast. So with that, I would say keep an eye out for April Campos. She's still keeping clothes. Snowflake Fish may be the smartest one in the bunch over there in Tyrone Blackburn's universe. And I'm including Tyrone Blackburn in that. Because, sir, as you are gaining traction in your eyes, you got to be a little bit more tighter in how you pursue things. It's probably not a good look at the early onset to have a Rule 11 violation. Now, if you don't know what Rule 11 violation is, you have to look at an earlier video in this series where we talk about Rule 11 violations. It's the Christian Combs Yacht Stewardess video. I think it's part 7, like I said. But in the meantime, between time, keep it locked and loaded here on the YouTube I Refuse podcast, the channel, the podcast on Spotify and Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, keep it locked on the usual suspects. Sometimes we talk about that over there, Diddy stuff. We just dropped 2 fresh episodes this week over there. And follow the Twitter at I Refuse Podcast and the Instagram at I Refuse Podcast _ between the words. And we will catch you guys later. Peace. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse